So, I want you to do a thought experiment with me. Let's think about something very important that seems like it should be relatively easy to solve, but is not. So, I want you to look at the way the world is today. We all see the inequality. We all see the social issues. We all see that there is a culture war running beneath the surface. A war of inequality. A war of rich versus poor. A war of man versus woman. These things are happening. And we all know that. There is a cultural and mental war going on right now. The entire society is in a mental upheaval. So, over the past few years, I've learned what it means to sit quietly with the inner self and to just be with it. To be with the inner self, to be with those scary emotions that we run from. And I began studying it and just really, really looking into our behavioral psychology as humans. And I've come to realize something. So let me ask you a question. How many world problems, societal, economic, just our general world problems, how many of them do you think can be dealt with, if not outright solved, by teaching people and making it a mainstream idea as to not be afraid of sitting with the inner self and the emotions? The answer will surprise you. It's a lot of problems in the world. A lot of them can be solved with just that one issue. This fear, that fear of sitting with the self, is at the root of majority of our social and economic issues. It is the main driver of tribalism and a whole host of other psychological issues that we're going to go into. So the question is, why is the fear of being alone with the self such a powerful fear? And why are we afraid to know ourselves? So, first let's take a look at some of the problems that could be solved by just learning how to sit with the self. So, and this isn't an exhaustive list of any means. This is just a few of the things that we can adequately deal with. One of them, consumerism and overconsumption. We often buy stuff just to distract ourselves. Add to cart therapy. We've all had those moments where we're bored and we don't know what to do, so what do? We buy something. Just to not feel lonely for a moment. Just to have the excitement of something coming in the mail. Just to go out and do something. To spend money just to spend it. These are distractions. If we learned to sit with the discomfort, to sit with the boredom, to sit with that silence, we would buy less things. And we would not only buy less things, but we would live more intentionally. We would put more purpose into our lives intentionally. And we'd have no need for the latest gadget that's trendy right now, or the new car, or that hot dress, or the newest purse, or any of that bullshit. All of that is there to distract and to fill a hole. Now, are there things that we buy because we just because we like? Yes. Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that is what you want, if the new hot dress is what you want, if the new purse is what you want, and you know you want it, and you know why you want it, and can afford to do it, by all means do it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But we need to know why we're buying what we buy. So that's one thing that can be dealt with from knowing the inner self. Let's move on. Addictions. Most addictions are not driven by the chemical that the person is taking. You can be addicted to anything. I had about a 5-year period in my life where I was literally addicted to music. Just music. I could not go anywhere without having headphones in my ears. I could not work a job that wouldn't allow me to have that. It was an escape. And that's the core of an addiction, is self-medicating for the pain that we refuse to face, that we feel that we can't face. So, how do you deal with that? Well, addictions are hard to deal with. But the root of it is emotional presence. Being able to sit with whatever the emotional trauma is that has destroyed your life and caused you to seek the substance or habit, because you can be addicted to habits too, that is your numbing habit or addiction or substance. So we have to seek the root of that. It's not the chemical itself. It's the emotional avoidance and pain, or the avoidance of that pain, the numbing and the distraction that is the root of the addiction. That's the second one that can be dealt with and solved by being present with the self. What's another one? Violence and aggression. Most of it stems from unprocessed trauma, shame, rage, guilt. We project these feelings onto others and see them as disrespecting us, and we respond appropriately, or so we think. But really all we're doing is reacting to a shitty emotion that we don't realize we're having, because we're so disconnected from our own emotions, because we're so afraid to sit with them. Violence and aggression, right there. Now, if someone's threatening to kick your ass, I'm not saying don't fight back. No, you deal with them rightly. But look at the root of it. Another one, tribalism and polarization. I really don't think I need to go further into that. People are afraid of being alone, so they cleave themselves to the group. They cling to identities even though they know that they're wrong. Deep down, they know that they're wrong. If you believe something and the very thought of believing something different makes you angry, there's something wrong there. If you believe something and someone else believing something different makes you angry, there's something wrong there. Why does it make you angry? Because it means that they can believe something that you don't and still be happy with themselves. That means there is something within your belief that is not ringing with you. That means there is doubt within that belief and you don't want to face it. That's what it means when someone else's opinion makes you angry. When someone else's belief makes you angry, it means there is something within your own belief that you are not facing. Now, let me put a caveat to that. If what someone else believes is causing someone harm, someone else harm, or causing themselves harm, that is justified anger. If that makes you angry, that is justified. Let me be very clear on that. There is a justified anger with opinions and beliefs. If it is causing someone else harm, if it is causing you harm, yes, you have every right to be angry. I'm talking about petty beliefs. I'm talking about religious beliefs, political opinions, things like that. Tribalism, polarization. That's what I'm talking about. Echo chambers. Let's talk about echo chambers for a moment. Because all that is a way to avoid facing what you know you don't actually believe. So these people, they get around. It's a giant circle jerk to avoid each other's emotions. Okay? That's pretty much what it is. It is mental and psychological masturbation because it feels good to them to reinforce their beliefs that they already have. And God help you if you don't masturbate in the same way as someone else. Let's look at some other stuff. Mental health crises. We all know that there is a mental health pandemic going on right now. And yet, how often are we acknowledging it? We're just acting like it's not even a thing. We're talking about it, sure, but no one's focusing on the root of the issue. Instead, we're bitching about it on Facebook and casting blame on other social groups and other cultures and other people and marginalized people, the rich, the poor. We've got to find somebody else to blame. And yes, there are people to blame for that. For aspects of it anyway. But you know what? When you can sit alone with the inner self, all of the shit in the world can fall down on you. And you can go, yeah, this sucks. This fucking sucks. But you know what? Shit happens. Let's move on through it, and we'll get to the other side. And when we get to the other side, we're going to look back and say, you know what? I learned something from that. And when the next shitstorm comes, Guess what? I already know how to deal with it because I've already dealt with shit. I know to get my shovel, shovel it up as it comes, turn it into manure or turn it into fertilizer and put it in my fucking garden. And boom, I've made tomatoes out of shit. Garden or championship tomatoes out of shit. Because shit happens. That is the mindset that you get about life when you learn to sit with yourself. And do you still deal with things like anxiety and depression? Sure. Of course you do. That's a part of the human condition. But they are no longer controlling your life. They are no longer running your life. Becoming more aware of them by sitting with it, by sitting with the self, by learning who you are, they become easier to deal with. Does it stop it outright? No. At least not that I've found so far. I've only been doing it a few years. So, the case study isn't quite long enough yet. Give me another 20 years and I'll let you know on that one. But, it does make it easier to deal with by recognizing the moments as they happen. And saying, okay, I'm in a depressive episode right now. Okay, I'm having a panic attack right now. I've had this before. I can deal with this. You go, I can handle it. All right, let's see what I can learn from it. What am I avoiding here? What am I trying not to look at? What am I afraid of? It's a chance to dive into it deeper when you notice those episodes. It's a chance to explore yourself deeper. This is the mindset you take on when it comes to mental health. You don't suppress it, you explore it. Presence and self-awareness are powerful medicine for mental health. Powerful, powerful, powerful medicine. I would even dare say the antidote. Again, I can't say for sure yet. I haven't been there. Give me 20 years. But I have a strong hunch that it is. What's another one? Corruption, power addiction, greed. People chase status and control because they're terrified of being seen as weak or vulnerable. Well, that's core wounds, core traumas, unexamined, right there. Look at our current president. Tell me that is not a boy with daddy issues. Okay, whether you agree with his policies or not, I'm not here to get political. But we can all see that he is a raging man-child. And an idiot at that. We can all see that. So, what happens when that person can sit with the self? They can begin to heal those deep wounds. And they don't need power to confirm to them that they're important. They don't need to be greedy. They don't need to be corrupt. So there's another one. That's 6 so far. 6 major world issues. Let's go one more. Environmental destruction. We are a society of distractions and numbing. Everywhere you look, there's the hottest new trend, the next new sale, the latest fad, the latest Netflix show to binge watch. We are a society of distractions. Just numbing ourselves. And what happens when we live that sort of life? We tend to ignore the core things. We ignore our personal health on a personal level. We ignore our personal health when we're depressed. We ignore our exercise. We ignore our hygiene when we're depressed and we were dealing with major bouts of anxiety. This is what we do as humans on a personal level. Now take it to a societal level. We ignore the environment. We ignore the things that are going on. And let me say this, as a former meteorologist, we've known about climate change for 50 fucking years. 50 years. We've known about it, and the scientists have warned about the consequences of what would happen. And what happened? Oil industries lobbied the public and brainwashed the public to keep this stuff going because it makes them rich, because they are corrupt and power addicts, because the society just numbs itself and so ignores what is important. When you are aware of something, that's when you take action. When you are aware of the behaviors that you are making, the habits that you have, and when you are aware of how detrimental they are to your health, be it mental, physical, or both, or emotional, you can be aware of it. But you have to be aware of how detrimental it is. When you become fully aware of it, that's when you start taking action, not before. If we could teach people to be with themselves, all of this would change. So, how do we do that? Well, first off, we have to look at why we're so afraid of ourselves. Why are we afraid to just sit with ourselves? Well, the thing is that the self, the inner self, when it's unfiltered and it is unrepressed, it is vast. It's chaotic. It's painful. And most of all, it's honest. When you're not feeling something, when you're not feeling a certain vibe with someone, when you're feeling that, hey, this person's not right for me, hey, something's going on with this person, you know it. You know it. You ignore it, but you know it. Tell me you don't. Tell me deep down that you don't know that that person you're pining for is not the person for you. You know it. You know you're about to touch that hot stove again. And what do? You're like, I gotta touch it anyway. I know I'm gonna do it. I know it's bad for me. But once you deal with the emotion that's driving it, then, only then, can you begin to take conscious action. So, again, we are deeply afraid to be alone with ourselves. Why? Because the brain is scary as fuck. So, let's look at some things. Let's look at some reasons why. So, a lot of it goes back to our evolutionary wiring. We are social creatures. We always have been. And there was once a time where to be alone was to die. To be exiled meant death. And that wiring still is there, deep down within us. So that's one. That's the biological aspect of it. But that also goes into cultural conditionings. We're taught to conform. We're taught to perform. We're taught to succeed. We're taught to live the American dream, you know? We're taught to, and I say that as an American, I'm not saying our other societies around the world are supposed to live the American dream. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying these conditionings are put upon us by our cultures. And we all have those things. They're different from culture to culture, but let's look at typical American culture, where it looks like go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job so you can get married, have a couple of kids, a car, a white picket fence, go through a midlife crisis, maybe get divorced, who knows, buy a rich fancy car because you're in a midlife crisis and you don't know who you are, grow old, retire, and die. That's pretty standard around here. And people go their whole lives in this pattern of every day, wake up, go to work, come home, sit in front of the TV, go to bed, wake up, go to work, come home, sit in front of the TV, go to bed. This is the lifestyle that we live. It's no wonder Americans are fucking fat. If you look at that kind of lifestyle, is it any wonder that everything we seek is to distract ourselves? And this isn't just America. This is all around the world. I highlight America because this is where I live. And this is what I know. We are a society of performers and conformers. That's the society that we have. And it's all because we cannot sit with ourselves. And is what is conditioning us further not to sit with ourselves. So what's another reason why we're so scared? Our inner world is terrifying. We all have that dark, scary place in our mind that we don't want to go and visit. We've all got it. That's the subconscious. And it's filled with repressed traumas. It's filled with grief. It's filled with shame. It's filled with anger. It's filled with sadness. And facing that thing requires not only going to the abyss and looking at it, staring into the abyss and having it stare back. No, it requires diving in, head first, and screaming the whole way fucking down as you encounter the monsters and leviathans of the deep that swim there, and you learn to deal with them. And what's worse, you can't kill them. You can only befriend them. But when you befriend them, when you learn what you needed to learn from that experience and let go of the attachment to that experience, it will become a powerful ally. Will the memory stop hurting? Not at first. It's a painful memory, and it's always going to hurt a little. But the pain goes away. It lessens, I should say. It doesn't go away outright, but it does lessen. But that pain becomes a powerful driver because you understand what caused that pain and you understand how not to repeat it. And so the pain becomes experience. And that experience you carry with you for the deeper monsters in the abyss. And when you face them, the ones you've already conquered are a fucking army at your back. That's how you beat the monsters of the abyss. Our inner world is terrifying. And facing it requires immense courage and immense tenacity that most people never learn. That's number 3 as to why we're afraid of sitting with ourselves. Let's see number 4. The ego. The ego is the perception of the self. But to know the self is to realize that it is not what we thought it was. That threatens the identity, the control, all of the ego's little illusions that it's put together to keep you from knowing the deeper self, to keep control over the host body, so to speak. It's not a parasite, but it can behave like one sometimes. The perception of the self is a protective mechanism. It's a way to stay safe within the tribe. It's knowing when to put on the masks, knowing what masks to wear in order to be either safer or secure more power within the tribe, which translates to more security. That's the ego. We aren't taught that. We're just given identities to add to the ego, to add to the masks. We're given another mask to add to the collection. And we're constantly being given more and more and more and more masks. And we wear these things every single day. But we get to a point where we start wearing them to ourselves. And we wear them so often that we don't even realize that we're wearing the mask. That's reason number 4. What's another reason? A lack of tools and models. Very few people are taught how to sit with themselves. The whole point of nearly every world religion has been to sit with the inner self. The whole point. But instead, the ego has taken it over, has taken most religions over and made it about the belief. I'm looking at you, Christianity, especially. I'm looking at you, Islam. I'm looking at you, Judaism. The Abrahamic faiths are really bad with that. Purely ego-driven. But even then, at their core, they are about sitting with the inner self. The Eastern religions are a lot better with that. The shamanic practices are a lot better with that. The pagan practices are a lot better with that. Are they perfect? No, none of them are. But it's about sitting with the self. That is spirituality at its purest. You know that light that shines in a child's eyes? That's it. That's it. They know their inner selves. Their inner selves aren't blocked by years and decades of social programming. They're unfiltered, untainted. That's why it shines through their eyes so brightly. That's why they can run and play in the rain without a care in the world. At a moment's notice, spontaneously. Because they are untainted by so much social conditioning that it clouds their inner star. And it's no longer allowed to radiate. You think back on your life as an adult. Think back. Think back to when life started to become a little more dull. For most of us, that's between 10 and 12 years old. Give or take. Give or take a few years. But usually, late childhood, early adolescence, our teen years, are when the social programming starts weighing on us so heavily that we begin to not even know who we are. And we begin to forget who we are. And so we lash back at parental figures, at authority, because we recognize, deep down, we recognize the social programming that is taking place. And we recognize that this is not what we want to be. Now, some of that, a lot of that is well-intentioned from person to person. Most of it is well-intended. But it's detrimental to us. It's detrimental to us if we don't have the foundation to build upon. And so we're not taught how to sit with the self. We're not taught emotional intelligence and processing. All we're told is to run, to avoid, to distract, to numb. That's all we're told. And so our society has become an echo of that. A series of distractions and avoidances and numbing. What's another reason? Well, I was already talking about it. The system that we have built for ourselves is built by us to distract us. It ain't the rich keeping you down. It ain't Joe Schmo down the street that hurt you 20 years ago that's keeping you in the place that you are now. It's not your ex-wife or your ex-girlfriend or your ex-husband or your ex-boyfriend that hurt you all those years ago that you can't heal from. That's not on them. Yes, they hurt you. But it is up to you to sit with that shit and heal it. Entirely up to you. They are no longer to blame. That is on you. Now, are there traumas that run deep to the point of scarring so powerful that some people just physically cannot handle it? Yes. Yes, there are. But when we can learn to sit with the self, even those powerful wounds, bit by bit, are able to heal. Or at least scar over and not hurt as much. There were Holocaust survivors who walked away and still were able to heal. I want you to think on that for a moment. There were Holocaust survivors that were able to heal from the atrocities committed against them. And your ex saying something bad 10 years ago, you're still bitching over that. Let that shit go. But this is the society that we have built for ourselves. And it keeps us afraid of knowing. It keeps us afraid of knowing ourselves. It keeps us afraid of seeking harsh truths. And when we are afraid of seeking harsh truths, we seek only the quote-unquote truths that jive with what we're saying, what we already believe. We live in a society of, if it don't jive, it can't thrive. At least not within me. Inconvenient truths are rejected. Why? Because it hurts. Because it proves us wrong. Because it pokes at something that we don't want to acknowledge. And we don't like it. A person who can sit with this, a person who can sit with their pain, sit with their sadness, does not have to project it onto others. You know the phrase, hurt people hurt people? Hurt people because they don't realize they're hurt. Or because they won't face their hurt. And that's why they hurt people. If you are hurt and have dealt with the emotion, you won't hurt somebody. If you are aware that you were hurt and aware of how deeply you were hurt, you will not inflict that on someone else. A person who can sit with their own shadow doesn't need to project it onto their enemies. A person who knows themselves cannot be manipulated. A group of people that know themselves cannot be divided. A group of people who know themselves cannot be broken. You want to fix the system? This is how. This is how we fix the system. One person at a time. If you can know yourself, know your inner, deepest self, you will be unfuckwithable. Nothing can mess with you. Will there be bad times in life? Yes. Yes, there will be. But you'll be able to take those times and you will be able to make clear choices because you are aware of the pain brought on by those bad times. But furthermore, you are aware of what you can learn from those bad times. Because every challenge in life is an opportunity to explore something within the self. Every single challenge. They are opportunities if you make them such. In the worst of situations, you can learn something about yourself. And if you don't, that's because you choose not to. We are highly advanced pattern recognition creatures. We can make meaning out of literally anything. Literally anything. We can assign a random object a specific meaning. Look around you. Everything around you has a name. Every object has a name. It has a meaning. It has an intended use. And it has some unintended uses. We've labeled everything. The trees have names. The very ground we walk on, the planet we walk on, has a name. It has a meaning. Not because that meaning was inherent, but because we've assigned that meaning. We can put meaning on anything. And we can put any meaning we want. Any meaning we want. If a kid walks up to you with a stick, that stick can be a sword, it can be a gun, it can be a magic wand, it can be anything that kid wants it to be. And that kid will tell you what it is. And to them, for that moment, it is what it is. That's the fun of it. Because we can assign meaning. So, when you assign the meaning to how your ex treated you 10 years ago, yeah. You see that? You don't have to keep that same meaning. Change the meaning of it. Instead of how they hurt you, what did you learn? What would you do differently now? How is what happened, how did it make you who you are today? What positive came out of that relationship or that memory? What were the good memories? Because we so often highlight the negatives especially with relationships. What were the good times? Can you accept both? Acceptance is key. This is how we fix the system. This is how we solve the problem at the root. Because we are coming to a point where we can no longer afford to apply annual solutions to perennial problems. We can't mow over the weeds and expect them not to come back, because they do. Because we haven't dealt with the root of the issue. That's it. That's it. That's a vast majority of our world's social and economic issues that can be dealt with effectively if we know the self. If we put a bigger importance on knowing our inner selves, knowing who we are, how we think, why we do what we do, why we believe what we believe. Not believing why we know. Knowing why we know. We have to be able to sit and look at that truth, as uncomfortable as it is. We have to be able to sit and look at that belief and pick it apart and say, what is verifiably true and what is not? And until we learn to do these things as a society, we're going to keep seeing this system the way that it is. I'm sorry to say. We will keep seeing it until we understand this. Truly understand this. And every religion around the world has tried to say this, and they've hidden it in myths and legends and all of these things to make it easy to go down, to make it easy for the people to see it. Because parables are simple. The masses don't want to think. But I'm calling it out. There's no parables here. There's no easy, simple message. No, you have to think. This is made to make you think. To call it out in every bit of itself. This is how we fix the system. You guys have a good day.